Welcome to Insights. I'm Eric. Let's do a quick review on the grain market this morning or today. We have a couple R's in the column next to corn and soybeans, so these are resets. They're resets within a primary uptrend. We can see them here. The primary uptrends are fairly extended. They have some extension on the price side. It's above 0, but they're not red and they're not above 2. The time cycles are relatively early, so that's not a problem. The problem that we have is the weeklies. The weeklies are almost all red in terms of the price and time cycles, and a few of them are bolded, especially for soybeans, which means that these trends are extended. So these resets are identified by the computer as being mid-cycle. They either can be early or they can be late. You can see them over in the composite area here. Mid-cycle, they're designated right here. Mid-cycle is usually above 0. It's one of the reasons why the composite X score is not highlighted green. It's not negative. It's above 0. So the cycle is generally across the 3 time frames much more extended than we would like to be in a traditional reset. If you combine that information within the energy builds, and we're going to take a look at that specifically in a few seconds, we're resetting as energy builds are not all that bullish, especially for corn and definitely for wheat. Soybeans is better, but again, you're pushing on a string in terms of the weekly. The weekly is 3.3 and 2.04, so it's the most extended. These are not ideal resets for, or what I would consider to be viability for entry. There is a high probability, or at least a decent shot, that the downtrend is going to affect the weekly, and it's not something that you probably would want to chase. If we take a look at the energy specifically, we can see that these builds here in terms of corn is spiking up, but it's 3, and the computer doesn't even recognize it yet as being highlighted. So it's telling us that the builds have to get bigger before the entry point based on energy is compelling. It's just cracking above 0, so it's early, and where it could be early inside the consolidation. Soybeans is further along at 54 and minus 14. But again, this is not highlighted white either, and this was not highlighted white. The computer will highlight it white, and I'll mark it with a green cup when there's a significant energy build. So this hasn't reached that level. Now what we can see is participation is being dragged out of the soybeans contract, and we have yet to do that for corn. But soybeans is further along, and it might be the first one to go when it really is ready. The energy build in wheat, it's dragging lower, but the energy build is much lower than the other two, which means that wheat's got more work to do. So in terms of where we sit, there is no reset in wheat, but we have a reset in corn and soybeans. Between the energy build and the weekly trends, it probably keeps us on the ignore side and sitting and watching this one. Everyone is still following the primary trend. The primary trend has been up across the board for 10 months and 8 months and produced these returns. But this is not a reset that's a high probability reset. There's too much extension. The energy build is still too immature. You can make a case for it for soybeans, but then that gets countered by a really aggressive weekly price and time cycles here and here. Those are not something you want to see them black, possibly blue, but again, chasing an escalation or a reset into something that's mid-cycle is usually not something that's great to do. In terms of the seasonality, which we've talked about before, we could be entering the period which these markets tend to do the worst. Wheat will pick up the quickest. So the energy build would come off and dissipate in terms of this energy build here and would rotate upwards. We could be setting up first in the summertime relative to the other markets. But again, it's not something that's ready, so we're just going to have to wait. So I just wanted to update everyone in terms of the reset. Yes, there's resets. The computer is flagging them all the time. I could tell the computer to ignore them, but I want everyone to see them and be able to think through what they're seeing in the matrix. This is something that I would most likely put on the ignore side and sit it on the sidelines. There probably, well, there most definitely will be another reset. There's a lot of resets within the primary trends. It'll probably be a better energy build, and it will probably be after the price and time cycles have been alleviated. If not, we have the core position, and we'll just keep riding it higher. Soybeans is up 50, and corn is about 50% from where it is. It's just now that the time frames are bouncing around in their mid-cycle and the energy is not super favorable, the easy returns are going to get are probably has have been seen already. It's returns there still could come. They're just going to be more challenging, and they're going to require even more patience. If you have any questions, let me know. Contact me directly. Anybody who's watching the grains probably is watching this stuff closely, learning how to use the evolution of the trade. Click here for studying those the phases. Again, I keep reminding everyone to know the phases, and this is a good example of how we're moving. This is a phase 3 for corn and soybeans, a reset, but it's not a very good one, and that's the key distinction. So it keeps us on the sidelines. I'm sure a lot of people bought yesterday, but I would have not done that. I would have be more patient, and better opportunities are always coming. So thanks for watching the video. Keep an eye on the grain market and enjoy the nice weather outside.